Okay. All right, everybody. So we are live on Zoom. Thank you to all of my family members for joining me. I am Wendy Cherry. I am the host of the Sanctuary Radio Show, where we inspire, educate, and empower. And this edition is called the Fight the Power edition. And we know things are crazy right now. It is June. Things change from day to day, so I'm going to date stamp this. This is June 8th. And I'm in the East Coast. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. So some of the bigger protests have been happening here. But these are all of my cousins and my niece and my nephew. And they are what you would call millennials, Generation Zs, right? And they are the ones who are on the front line. They are the ones who are out here fighting, and have the stamina and have the energy and the excitement and the passion to be out on the front lines more than just like on Saturday or Sunday, right? So I wanted to first introduce them, and then I wanted them to individually tell their story. So when I introduce you all, say where you're from and how old you are, if you don't mind, and then also what you do. Because the point is that the saying goes that we are the ones that we have been waiting for. There is nobody that's coming to save us. So as a collective, in different ways, we are the ones who are going to make this change. And because of the power of our ancestors and who we come from and what has already been endured, there's no way that we can lose because we've made it this far. And so I want to start with my nephew, Xavier. Tell us about yourself, Xavier.
So my name's Xavier Flowers. I am 21 years old in Arlington, Texas. Currently, I work for Louis Vuitton Client Services, but outside of that, I sing, songwrite, and I also model. So
right. Okay, so now, this is from an auntie perspective, right? So I'm looking at Facebook last week, and I see my nephew is out in these streets. And he's hyped. Right? I felt the hypeness. So I sent him, just like I sent Doronda and our other cousin group, the things that you do if you planning to be out in these streets for safety, right?
Yes.
And he did not respond, but he had, in my mind, I'm like, he has them. So now I'm just going, okay, I'm keeping an eye on his Facebook, but he's out there saying, tell us about your experience. And then I'll tell, and then I'll go back and tell you what I was thinking as an auntie.
Okay. So my first experience was in Dallas. It was huge. There was a great organization that led the protest. Pretty much 10 minutes within, it is getting a little chaotic. There's already police showing up. I look to my right, there's people, fist fighting. I don't know for what, but I'm just like, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And that was just in the beginning. So it goes on, we're maybe halfway through, the police start blocking us off.
Okay.
People are getting outraged. They end up hitting the car, boom, boom, boom. The police move out the way. Maybe 5 more minutes down, it happens again, but we're stuck from the back and the front. We're there for like 20 minutes, still chanting and all that. We finally proceed, and then we're back. It started at City Hall and it ended at City Hall. We go back there. And that's when it got a little crazy. So the police start showing up out of nowhere, the National Guard. So these random guys coming up with shields and stuff. And I'm like, oh man. Of course, protesters are getting mad. So there's people out there throwing bottles and stuff at the cop cars. They're getting closer. And then out of nowhere, I hear boom, boom. My first instinct is that it's a gunshot. So I take off.
Right.
And I even look on the top of a building and it's a guy with a sniper on there. And then you see there's like 2 others, surrounded through Dallas with snipers. So I run to the car with my friends. We're trying to leave. Of course, everyone has the same idea. So we're all stuck. And then the tear gas, they start throwing that, but it was near the car. So I got a nice whiff of that, super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that was the first experience. I've had 2 others that have been very pleasant and peaceful, but that first one was something for the books. It was crazy.
So now, but what encouraged you to go out there, and who did you go with?
So I went with my two coworkers. Their name is Tia and Jessica. What inspired me to go out there, I mean, I've always been outraged. You know, I'm a Black man in society, so of course I feel the same outrage as most people, but I can take responsibility for the fact I wasn't taking as much action as I can.
Okay.
So I feel like watching George Floyd's death, Breonna Taylor's, and then I think when, you know, President Trump refers to us as thugs, something about that just lit a fire in me. And I was like, this is ridiculous. We have to start working towards making change, even in the policies with the police. It's getting out of hand. Like, I mean, I could be the next hashtag, and that shouldn't be a thought in my mind as I'm going to the grocery store or something. So that's pretty much what it was. I mean, I'm going to continue doing whatever I can, but I just, looking back, I wish I would have took a little more action earlier on.
Okay. And I think that's fair. And I do want to mention that everybody comes into it when they're ready.
Yeah.
Because if you ain't ready and you go out there and stuff pops off, then that's a different experience. And it's a more of a traumatic experience than it, you know, could potentially be. So I took Sydney Sydney has gone to every protest that I have been to since she's been able to like ditch and dive if that's what we needed to do, right? Mm-hmm. So, but she asked me, she's a teenager, she'll be a senior this year. She asked me to go to one that the kids here in DMV put together at Martin Luther King Memorial. Mm-hmm. So we went, it was hot, people were passing out, but the best thing was that these kids were on it. Yeah. They were organized. They had the demands down. They had awesome speakers. They had awesome poets. It was very collaborative. This other group, there was like hundreds of other people that marched over and they just joined in, and it was very peaceful. Everybody was helping everybody. Good. When we left, Sydney said, "Mommy, I know that my role is not on the front lines." Mm. And that's okay too. Right. Because we're all needed. And then the other thing is, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. So if you are, in my opinion, if you are out there running yourself ragged the first week off some passion and just adrenaline, what's going to happen in 3 months when they're still doing the same thing? God forbid, right? Okay, so I want to hear from Doronda. I know Doronda has been out. Doronda is my cousin. So tell us about yourself, Doronda.
Trying to unmute myself. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. So I'm Doronda. I am Wendy's younger cousin, 31. I live in Washington, D.C. I'm a civil and environmental engineer and construction project manager. And I would say I've been protesting since my early teens. That's just something that I've always done. But this was the first protest that I'd have been to this year. Okay. Just, I guess mainly because of Corona, but also because initially I think we really weren't hearing, I guess just with everything else that's been going on this year, we really weren't hearing a lot about police brutality deaths in this capacity that we have in the last month or two. Right. I feel like everything kind of just started flooding in. All of the deaths, of course, Breonna Taylor, who we're still trying to get her murderers arrested at this current date, right. As well as Ahmaud Arbery and of course George Floyd and many others. But I think this kind of everything was just coming to a head between people being angry about what's going on with coronavirus and people losing jobs and whatnot. And then to see almost as soon as they finally let us off of quarantine, this is the first thing almost that happened, you know, to right. watch someone be killed and the way that he was killed. I think it just erupted. Because now it's not just those of us who have been doing this for a long time. It's everybody who's saying, you know, this is wrong. I see it now. What can we do? What do we need to do? And I appreciate that from all of my friends who maybe at times in the past we've butted heads because they didn't want to hear what I had to say. In particular, some of my white friends. And I even have had some of them contact me privately and say, hey, look, sorry that we fell out about this. I wasn't ready to hear it then. I'm listening now. Okay. And there's a part of you that feels like too little too late, but I'm glad you're here at the same time.
Yeah, well, I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised at how multicultural this protest was that we were in DC. It was a little bit of everybody out there, and I was grateful for that. Yeah. So I was watching your Facebook posts too, and you were talking about, or maybe you just told me that you were impacted by pepper spray. What did you say? Tear gas.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
So that happened last Monday, so a week ago now, and I was in Richmond, Virginia, and in DC at that point, I didn't know about the protest that was happening on that Monday. I had been told about the ones that just happened this past weekend and was planning to go to those. But my brother and one of our childhood friends told me about one that was happening in Richmond, kind of in response to, what people are calling the rioting that had happened prior to that. And this was a completely peaceful demonstration that we were going down to. And so while Donald Trump, was sicking the military and police officers and everyone else on everyone here in DC,
Right.
Richmond Police Department was doing the exact same thing in Richmond, Virginia. And that experience it started out pretty much like any other protest that I've partaken in. We marched pretty much clear across Richmond for probably about 3 or 4 hours that day, completely peaceful. And it was very well organized. They had stations for water, people picking up trash, everything, keeping everyone safe. People had kids out there, infants, toddlers, and what have you. It was a completely peaceful protest. And in the last 30 minutes of it, it just went haywire.
Right. And so when you were realizing that it was time to self-preserve, what did your mind think and what did you do?
So one thing that happened, and I don't think most people know about this, I don't know how they did it, I guess with some sort of signal jammer, but they basically shut the grid down right before they encroached on us. Yeah. So we couldn't go Facebook Live, we couldn't call anyone. My brother and I got separated in just the mayhem, and I was trying to call him, trying to find him, couldn't find him for the whole time. There was thankfully a woman who was in her house and she ran out into the street and she told us, hey, they pushed up the curfew because we didn't know because we couldn't get any signal or what have you. So it was definitely a trap, completely a trap. She told us, and so I immediately started running to go get my car because I knew, all right, if it's gonna get ugly, we need to be able to get out of here quick, and especially since I can't find my brother right now. So I ran, got my car, came back, and by that time, that's when the tanks and armored cars and stuff rolled in and full riot gear, and they swarmed on people. They were chasing people down who were running away with mace, pelting everyone with rubber bullets, dropping tear bombs and what have you. And what was cruel about it was they were pointing the canisters directly at people to use them as a projectile. So, I mean, it was definitely a vicious assault or attack or what have you. And I think what, for me, was the worst part about it was, as I said earlier, we had kids out there. There were infants and toddlers out there, and they were dropping tear gas.
Oh, well, I'm sorry that happened and you experienced it. I also, I've seen a lot of this over the years. I'm only, I'll be 50 this year, just in a few more months. But I was telling you all before we started, my first little fight the power situation was fighting Mattel because there wasn't any Black baby alives, and the one that was there had Black all over the box. And I'm like, what is this about? And my mom at 5 was like, write a letter and ask them to explain themselves. And then in high school, it was the South Africa, divest from South Africa and don't wear Reeboks. And it was just a lot. The red, black, and green movement came out and everybody was proud to be Black. And then Virginia Beach happened. And that was my freshman year of college, where they came and did just what you said. They came to cause harm. They came to cause harm. And then I grew up on the Jersey Shore. So the Jersey Shore beaches is where you see the white kids rent their shore houses and act the damn fool for the whole summer, right? The Black people in my town, we just went on Sundays, really. That was like the Black time to go to the beach. Now, this is in the 80s. This is in the 90s. And whenever we would be there, you would look on the roof and the snipers would be on the roofs. And the merchants would treat us like crap. You know, like we trying to get a slice of pizza and pay for the pizza and empower your business, and you're treating us like crap. So it took a few years until this riot happened. And I'm running and my partner's running, like we were running. I was scared. I had never been in an actual where the National Guard is lined up and they're pushing people to go one direction. You know, it was just like, I couldn't believe I was in New Jersey at the beach. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's the same. So I understand what you guys are going through. I'm angry that it's still happening. However, like I said, we have to preserve our stamina. And I know that a lot of people are kind of like, judging each other on what role a certain person should take based on whatever other people think, whether it's an age thing or a gender thing or intersectional thing. But I want us to be clear that everybody has a part. And like my daughter who's 17, she said, that's not her role. And you know how like when they say it's good to know what your ministry is, that ain't her ministry. Because then what you want her to be, having an anxiety attack in the middle of everybody, then what you gonna do? So she will figure out her role. I like doing things like this, bringing people together, talking about it, spreading information, letting the voices be heard. And you know, I want it to be known that anybody can do it, not just the stars, not just the people that have money. This is Doronda who took off work or did whatever, and we supposed to be quarantined, and we still out here in these streets trying to fight for justice. So Amee'ra, tell us your story, and I specifically want you to talk about your sign and what you did when you walked past the officers with your sign, and what was your intention behind it.
Yeah, so I'm Amee'ra. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm 26. I'm a social worker, and I'm also the founder of a nonprofit called Therapy. So it's like a therapeutic mobile salon. So I will share that information here too. So I have been in protest before. So I went to the University of Texas here in Austin, and I bleed burnt orange, but there was a lot of things happening on campus that really kind of opened my eyes to the world and the things that were happening. I'm a military brat, so we moved a lot. So I always lived in places where there was just a lot of diversity and people from, you know, different countries and different backgrounds. So going to UT was a little bit of a shock for me, but I joined some Black groups there and joined some of the leadership there too. So we definitely did some protests about things that were happening around Austin. So I did my first protest recently, I think about 2 weeks ago, and it was not peaceful. We got there and there was just a lot of weird things happening. One of the things that I definitely want to encourage people is to make sure that you find a trusted group that you're following. So if you see people saying that there's protests happening, you want to vet the people putting on the event to make sure that you're going to something that you can support and that has really good intentions, right?
Right.
So, I mean, here in Austin, there's one called the Austin Justice Coalition, and that is a really good group here if anybody wants to check it out. It's also connected to the church that I go to, which I really appreciate, and they partner together a lot. That group actually had to cancel the second protest they made because there was a lot of people saying they were going to try to take over the protest, and they didn't want to be ill-represented, right?
Right.
So that's definitely something to look at. So when I got there, I had to find my people. I mean, we're all people, but I had to find the group that I was trying to support, right?
Right.
Because there were different groups talking about different stuff. So I had to make sure I found the group that I felt safe with and that were, you know, about what I was about while we were there. Some people were pushing like religion and things like that. So I was like, let me make sure I stand with the right crowd. It just was really ridiculous, honestly. I went with a group of friends. Some of them were Black, some of them were mixed ethnicity, and some were white. And we made a whole bunch of signs and went down there, and we all talked about rules. I was like, all right, everybody put your phone on like, you know, power save mode. Don't run anywhere by yourself. Stay with a friend. Kind of ran through these rules. I made sure everybody had snacks. There was a lot of people handing out waters and doing like first aid in a lot of places, which was really good. Something else I appreciated was there were people walking around getting people registered to vote. So I was like, hey, everybody in my area, let's talk to this guy to get kind of, set up with that, because that is another huge platform that we want to make sure we need to be voting, bottom line. So I had a sign, and I can't say I can't take credit for what it said. I had another friend who did that. His name's Lakeem Wilson, but it says, "Who do we call them when the police murder?" Which is really something that got me really thinking, because I'm like, who do you even? I don't even feel safe calling y'all. I feel like if I had an issue and I called y'all to help, and then y'all came and made the situation worse, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
So out there, there was you definitely strategically set up how they were set up around us. Because again, the groups share exactly what locations we're going to and where we're going to walk to, kind of thing. So we met at the Austin Police Department headquarters. And so they had snipers on all the roofs, down all the blocks, everywhere that we could have walked. You saw snipers like pointing guns down at you, not trying to be timid or shy about it. They had drones. It was so many drones, and it's kind of hard to tell who the drones belong to. But it's like anytime a drone literally dropped by, like literally by your head, and you're not sure what's happening or what the drone is going to do, because I don't necessarily trust all that either.
Right.
So there were probably about maybe like 6 or 7 drones in like the small area on this corner. And so they had some cops up above on like the highway, and people were getting a little antsy and everybody's pissed. So people were definitely yelling at the cops, and the cops were saying nothing back, but were definitely using as much force as they could. Yeah. So they were pushing people, hitting people with the ends of their guns, tons of rubber bullets, tear gas, mace. And you could see people carrying around like huge jugs of milk, because that helps with the eyes. And then also people just saying like, hey, wear your glasses, don't wear contacts. That's another really big piece. That way you don't get that stuck in your eyes. So it was at one point, or a couple points, they chased us, kind of how you were talking about, Doronda, like into apartments, into houses. Like they really pushed, like when you thought they were going to stop going, they weren't. And they were shooting, like just firing everybody up. They were pointing out people in the crowd to shoot at, even when nobody was doing anything. And I think that's kind of what riled us up in the first place, because it was just like, we're just talking, we're chanting, we're just, hanging out, and then here they come shooting at us. So then of course you want to go address them. And that just started a whole uproar. So it wasn't as peaceful the first day that I went, at least. And then I think that there's a lot of different ways you can persuade people. And I feel like really getting to talk to officers, or getting to have that one-on-one or those smaller settings, to just kind of talk to them like, hey, we're literally just trying to understand, and we want you to understand us. Right. We want to be on the same page about what it is that's happening, what it is that we want, and why we're upset. And then saying like, what are you going to do that's going to be different? Because clearly there's a problem here. So I had that sign, who do we call when the police murder? And like I said, they had pushed us so far back. People were actually coming out of their apartments and allowing us to go in there, because they were shooting people's cars. It was really, I'm talking about hundreds of rubber bullets at one time. So I had walked past probably a line of about anywhere, it was a lot, maybe anywhere between like 50 to 100 officers standing in this line, kind of making sure we're not going anywhere outside the neighborhood. Basically, they wouldn't even let us stand anywhere. And I just held that sign, and I looked like every single one of them in their eyes. And I can say every one of them looked at me. And that made me feel really good, because I'm like, I want you to see this, and I want you to think about it. I want it to sit heavy on your heart. I wanted to push you to do something different. And for me being out there, I just wanted to inconvenience people as much as possible. I was trying to go on the highway, because people are trying to drive. I don't really care what you're trying to do right now. Y'all should be out here with us. Right. And I feel like it's I think as Black people, we're a lot of things, lot amazing things, but right now a lot of like, we're pissed, we're angry, we're inconvenienced. And it's like, I saw a quote and it said, people want peaceful protests because they can ignore them. So
Right.
it's like, for me, when I went out there, I was like, nobody's going to get to ignore me or anybody that I'm with today.
Right.
We're in your face. We're here. If you want to get out your car and talk about it, I'd love to, because here again is that chance to talk about what's happening and what needs to be different, right? So I think another big thing I want to point out too is I talked with my supervisor on Monday, because I had the longest weekend and was really just crying all the time in between Zoom calls. And I was like, I should really address this.
Yeah.
And I saw this article, and it was called Maintain Professionalism in the Age of Black Death is a Lot.
Yeah.
And it just really hit home for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to tell my boss, like, I'm not okay. Like, I definitely love my job. I love what it is that we're doing, but like my heart is hurting and I want to work on this PowerPoint for you, but like my mind is just not totally all there. So I think for me, that was a big point too, because I am kind of newer in my new position.
Right.
But I was like, at this point, I want to let y'all know what I'm about, because I want to see what you're about, because I'm not going to work here if we're not about the same thing, right? So I just reached out to her and I said, hey, like, I'm really hurt I was real specific with my words. I'm really upset about the Black lives that have been lost and the injustices against Black people. And I just can't work as fast today. I really hope you can understand. And she was super understanding and was like, hey, what can we do to accommodate? And then they made sure they addressed it in the larger group with the other staff too, a couple of times after that. So, I mean, being upfront about, the thing is, we don't need anybody. And I like how you said earlier, Auntie, like, nobody's going to save us. I can't wait for my boss to come and be like, hey, it's really hard right now. Do you need time? I have to tell you, like, hey, I need time. That's just where I'm at, right? So it's about telling people what you need. It's about being open and honest. And it's not about holding back or being worried about people are going to say about you or judge you. They're not for you. You're not for them. And that goes with, you know, friends, people you interact with businesses, with jobs, all that. So I think you had asked me to share a couple of things about just taking care of ourselves right now.
Let me go to the other ones first, and then we'll end with the caretaking. But I do want to say that I'm proud of you for standing in your own truth and what you needed at that time, because when Mike Brown, when that big decision came out, I was at a board meeting in LA with all the big wigs, right? And one of only a few, everybody was downstairs at this beautiful hotel, at the bar, chilling, and I'm up in my room watching them say not guilty or whatever it was, and having to call my daughter on the East Coast because we told her that the good always prevails and this person was going to get theirs, and it didn't happen, and then they're rioting. So I am shell-shocked, and I am numb, all those things that we have been. And then the next day I go to work and they shooting the shit like this just didn't happen. And I'm like, yo, what's really good? And I had to wear this face, and I did not have the language or the skills or the maturity to do what you did. I just didn't. I didn't even know that you could. I just sucked it up. So I'm proud of you for that. So let's go to Skyler and talk about her experiences. So tell us about yourself and where you are and how old you are.
Hey, I'm Skyler. I'm 28 years old. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an R&B soul artist and vocal coach here. And my first protest ever was last Sunday. It was like day 3 in Atlanta. I went with my boyfriend, Sebastian, who went to the protest in Ferguson. So he kind of knew how to go about things. And your tips that you sent for what to do and everything were really helpful. So when we went, we walked, because I'm literally right by the stadium, and walking out of my apartment complex and seeing National Guard immediately intimidated me. They're sitting like in their truck right there. So we're walking, trying to just go side streets, avoid, I don't know, any confrontation or any kind of drama. But we did see some people going, and once we finally got there, There were National Guard in the Centennial Park, like in the trees where we couldn't really see them, but they were just like camouflaged in the trees with their guns, and it was just a bunch of them all throughout the park. So the park is in front of us, and then on the left side and the right side of us, there's police and National Guard like blocking the way. And then there's a group of people protesting right in front of the police by the CNN Center, which was the main location that all the looting and rioting happened the first night, which really scared me. I didn't think I was actually going to go protest. I was a little nervous about it, but I felt the night before 2 Black college kids got like ambushed by police and tased just because they were driving and outside after curfew, when the curfew was just set. We didn't even know. But it was just wrong that they just ran up on them and like tased them and didn't say anything or anything. So that protest that I went to was specifically for that. And then of course the George Floyd and everything, but all of that combined. So it was peaceful while I was there. I wasn't there long. It was pretty peaceful. We just kind of circled around, didn't stay in one place too long. And yeah, we heard like a big boom from where we had left once. I don't know what it was, but it was just really intimidating and scary to see all the police moving in. So many cars. We saw a statue full of graffiti and just a lot of looting that had been done to the property, the buildings and everything, boarded up. Some just not boarded up yet. They just had like glass everywhere. So just walking through the city streets and just seeing all of that, it was just mind blowing. And just, I was in disbelief that this is happening now. It's 2020. Right. And in my time, I feel like I'm watching a movie. It's right. Something I'm watching a movie. So yeah, and I realized that protesting isn't necessarily like my way of protesting, like going out on the front lines. I do feel like it's necessary. I do feel like it's something I would do again, but I was nerved. I was just shocked and just nervous and paranoid. So I don't know. But I felt like from that, I was like, okay, what else can I do to, if that's not my calling to go out there and be on the front lines like that, what can I do where I feel safe and I feel like I can, make change. So I got some emails. There was like a list going around for emails that you could send to governors and mayors of these different cities with police brutality and everything. So I did that. Me and my boyfriend are trying to connect with our leasing people just to like help the community here. It's the pandemic. There's just a lot going on. So yeah, and I've been posting on social media, just everything that's happening, because I feel like people don't really see it. Like it's not, people are seeing it now because we keep posting it, which I think is a great thing, just making people more aware. So I'm like, okay, I want to make my following more aware if they aren't. So I've just been posting more videos of police brutality, and there's a lot of it, and it's honestly shocking because I didn't realize it was this bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Welcome to America. Yeah. Okay, Jarvis, are you and Matthew ready? Jarvis. Okay, hey.
Hey, hold on. Give me like 20 seconds.
Okay, no problem. So, what do you all think about the gentleman that got, the old white man that got knocked on his head? Is his name Jasper? Bleeding in the street. What did you all think when you saw an old white man get pushed down by white cops? What was your, what was your thought first on that?
That they have no heart. I mean, it's still human. I get it. Like because I've seen videos of them running like a horse running over a white woman. Still, I don't think he deserved that at all. It was just wrong.
Yeah. Anybody else want to speak on it?
Yeah, I actually was kind of in shock because I of course am aware that cops, some of them just don't discriminate against race. They're just vicious and brutal to anyone and everyone. But I was really shocked because this is, one, a white man, but two, a 75-year-old man. And that's what I think shocked me the most. When you think of police officers who are most likely to assault Black people, they tend to have this high sense of self-morality of, protecting the elderly and being honorable and what have you. And they kind of think that attacking Black people, you're just attacking thugs, right? And they have that mentality. So to see it happen to an elderly man who was obviously not armed, and I guess he did kind of quickly approach the police officers, but he certainly wasn't threatening them in any way. I mean, that shocked me.
Yeah. For me, it made me believe, I know this, I'm fight the power all day. The Black man is God. I'm all those things. However, I also know that this is the state against the people, in my estimation. They will do anything. And it doesn't matter, like you said, what women get run over, they push the old man down. Like when I saw him fall, and then when I saw him actually pass out and his little hand drop the phone, I got sick to my stomach. So I already knew, but it just made it more crystal clear. It's the state against the people. Okay, Jarvis.
Yeah, I got Matthew here. We got a break in the action, so tell us what you want.
Okay, so tell us who you are and where you are and what's happening where you are.
You want to go, Matt? Sure. Matt Bailey here. My dad, Jarvis. We're currently sitting out in front of the police station, the police department in Fredricksburg. We're doing a peaceful sit-in. We don't know what time we're in, but we'll be out here all night, probably. My experience, we've been out here for the past, 10 days? Every day protesting and marching in the streets, organizing, meeting with the chief of police. Well, my dad is on the advisory board for that. But I don't know if y'all heard, but on Sunday and Monday, it got really bad here. And they brought in National Guard, Virginia State Police, sheriffs from the surrounding counties, and our city police. And they started tear gassing us when we wouldn't disperse, even though we were peacefully protesting. I didn't hear a lot of you guys' stories, but I know Ron probably already talked about what happened in Richmond. Or were you in DC, Ron? I can't remember, but either way. So that's been our experience, but we've been seeing this for far too long. Enough is enough. Our grandparents and before them started the fight, and it's time for us to finish it. And we're out here every day. So no justice, no peace, but we need to have some serious reform, some serious defunding of the police, taking away that money to go elsewhere, is I think what we all need. And just real change, real reform. No justice, no peace. But the people are talking right now. I'm gonna let my dad talk, but I love you guys. That's what we're going through out here.
Thank you for being out there. Thank you for representing the Bailey clan.
We here every day. Marguerite called me. She called me the other day, and she was like on the verge of tears. She was like, "I've been going through a lot right now. This is coming up on a year on your papa's passing. We can't have anything happen to you. I'll tell you now. My heart will be broken if somehow like we good. But what does it look like to you or to anybody that has been in a fight if we're not out here? If I'm not out here, COVID-19 and all, but we out here staying as safe as we can. But it's just a shame that we even have to be out here during a pandemic fighting for justice for people that look like me and you. So,
agreed. Well, thank you. Be safe.
No justice, no peace. I will. Love y'all. Y'all be safe. Here's my dad.
Okay.
Be safe.
All right, guys. What's up? Sorry, what you want me to do?
So I want you to tell us who you are and tell us about how you've been making an impact in the city that you kind of to as an adult.
Wow. So let me see if I can find this. I'm Jarvis Bailey, and I am an elected official in the city of Fredricksburg. I am on the Citizens Advisory Panel for the police. Pastor. I also serve a congregation here, a Christian congregation in town. And I have been out here since stuff started here, jumped off in Fredericksburg. I went out, and what happened was at the first protest, can y'all still hear me, see me? Yeah, at the first protest, it was just an odd energy, and tension was high, and police and all kinds of stuff. And I just felt the need to say something. I believe that
one of my roles in this movement is to be able to pierce the noise and to speak to the moment. And I was in a place to do that, and folks heard me, and that sort of launched my career, if you will, in the movement. So I have become somewhat iconic. Folks know me.
Okay.
The next night after I spoke, and I wasn't on the platform on the agenda to speak, but I felt moved.
Okay.
The answer were saying, "Boy, you speak now," and I listened and I spoke, and things happened. And the next night, things started. There was confrontations building between the groups, and uh-oh, you still there? I may have to plug up. I'm losing power, but trying to find some power here. So I got a call from a city councilman that said, "Can you come down here? There's getting ready to be an issue, and we heard you speak, and we think that you can be helpful right now." And so I said, "Okay, I'm on the way." I dropped everything and went down there. And on the way down there, I called the city manager and said, have everybody just relax. All right. I need you to have your folks stand down." And he said, "I can't do that. I can't, there's white supremacist groups and blah, 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 blah. And we got to keep the city safe." And 25 business folks or whoever have said that, we want a lockdown. We want everything safe. The president of NAACP has said, we should enforce the law, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I don't care what anybody has said. I'm telling you, if you do this, if you have a confrontation with these people, I can't help you. And if you trust me and you trust my leadership, you will stand down and let me come and do what I need to do.
Right.
And he said, "Well, I can't do that." I said, "Okay, well, you live and die by your choices." So
Right.
So I went down and started to do, interface with the crowd, interface mostly with the crowd because I needed to find out what was going on.
Right.
So I asked my brothers and sisters what's happening, and they began to tell me. And I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes into me trying to de-escalate the situation, the city councilman came to me and said that the city manager wants to talk to you. And I said, "Okay." So I called him. He said, "I've asked the chief to stand down."
Okay.
So we resolved it. So I instantly became the peacemaker. And so tonight is Monday.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, we convinced, well, actually, the next day they had a new curfew. Everybody was all upset. So I'm a part of the Citizens Advisory panel. The police themselves, because we've been talking to them, decided that we needed to relax the curfew, which they did.
Okay.
And so the curfew was lifted. I guess Saturday it was lifted. I should say that what has happened is I have now begun to meet with we have leaders, we have folks who are on all sides of the movement.
Yeah.
And so I have begun to meet with them and talk about the movement being both strategic and tactical. And I'll look in a minute to see if I can find the text that I sent out. It's a really good one, I thought. But I began to meet with them. And so my credibility has gone up. Matthew is with me. I keep him with me as much as I can because a lot of people know him as well.
Yep.
I've gotten some credibility. So leaders of groups call me. We have one group who they're fairly radical. I haven't had a chance yet to build trust with them.
Okay.
And we're working on that. But so tonight they were in this. They refused to obey the law, and they were peaceful, but they blocked up Route 1. Which is a major route.
Right.
And the police.
Did you say that you're in Fredricksburg? I'm not sure if we said that. They are
Yeah,
in Fredricksburg, Virginia.
right. And so Route 1 is a Virginia byway that goes all the way from DC to Richmond. And so anyway, it's heavily traveled. And so the protesters blocked Route 1 on their way to the police station. And of course, they called me and said it's about to pop off. Can you get down here?
Right.
So I had to talk the cops off the ledge again to say to them, my line of reasoning with them is, number one, that people break the law all the time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you got some people holding up traffic. And I said, for 400 years, can we get 20 minutes of holding up traffic?
Right.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. They shut the police station down. They go to guns, as you know, they're afraid. And so now I say, you see what fear does. Okay. Yeah. You all are afraid of a bunch of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old students who are exercising their right. And all they're doing is blocking traffic.
Right.
And you can't understand. It's breaking. Yeah, they break the law. I said, you got 300 members of Congress that break the law all the time. You got a president that breaks the law. I got stopped for a speeding speeding, and the cop found out who I was, and he let me go. Okay, he made a choice that, oh, it's Mr. Bailey. He's the guy. He's this guy. So he let me go. You can't pause and let these kids break the law. I said, you do what you got to do. So if you need to go to guns, you do that. But you need to know that these are students, and the world is watching.
Yep.
Et cetera.
Yeah.
So I have to keep talking them off the ledge. Fortunately, I'm here in Fredericksburg. One of the things that I'm afraid of, I think we can do it here, but I need to begin to say to my young brothers and sisters that, and I think they get it. I don't know that there's ever been a transfer of power, that there's ever been a revolution without bloodshed, without sacrifice. And I'm afraid that it's going to have to come to that.
Yeah.
Because racism is so deeply rooted and entrenched in our society that they're not going to let it go. And some of it's just is unconscious because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
We've got some good folks that I know on the police force, and they're questioned, and they come to me and say, well, they're being unlawful. Well, damn, who isn't unlawful?
Right.
Shit. It's the way it is. And so, you cast the first stone, but they don't get it. And so that's just kind of the way, it's kind of where we are. And we have some young folk who are going to push it right to the edge. They're just mad. They're just fed up.
Yep. And
unfortunately, I mean, you've all seen those gangster scenes where everybody's got their weapons pulled. And nobody really wants to fight, but everybody's armed and ready to go. And somebody sneezes, and somebody misinterprets it as an act of aggression, and everybody gets shot. Yeah. It's just coming to a boiling point, just because of where we are. I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, my intuition says that is what's going to happen. There is going to be some bloodshed. And so, I just say for the people that we love, we're going to end on some tips and ways to keep yourself out there, because the revolution has to go if we plan to be out of this situation. This is the same old stuff that's been happening my whole lifetime. Jarvis older than me, and we don't want it for your kids. Amee'ra, Sky, Doronda, and Xavier. This doesn't not need to be for our legacies. And so, I sent to my cousins who were out, and to my niece and nephew, like, some ways to be safe. So like we talked about the milk, if they pepper spray you, or if they tear gas you. When I went out with Sydney, we wrote our emergency contacts on our arms in black magic marker. So in case we became unconscious or anything happened and nobody could talk to us, these were the emergency name with the name of the person. So we both had 2 different ones just in case. I had a box cutter and my pepper spray in my pocketbook, because You know, that's just what I was doing. And I do have a gun here and I don't want to use it. I don't like the fact that, I mean, I've had it, but I don't like the fact that it's here. But I do know that I'm on self-preservation for me and for mine. So, you know, Doronda was talking about going to the gun range. So Sydney and I took a Goddess and Guns gun class for women March of 2019, and we will do it again. And she's already been to the range with her dad, and we're planning to do that again. So,
Wendy, if I can just interject, if I can just interject real quick while you're on the topic.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that while we still have our rights, we need to utilize all of our rights. So Amee'ra was talking earlier about everybody needs to vote, and I 100% agree with that. But we also have the Second Amendment, and everybody who is legally allowed to own guns, if you are Black at this point and you don't have one, you are being irresponsible. I encourage everyone to get their concealed carry permit if you're in a state that allows that. Train up, not to incite violence, but to protect yourself at this point.
Right. Well, that's what America, like back in the 90s, I saw Ice-T on a night show, and he had this big old gold like machine gun necklace, right? And the man was like, why do you have that on? He said, this is how America sees peace. They come in with guns and shoot up people's stuff. That's what they understand. So to your point, Doronda, you know, you got to protect yourself. That's what you see the guys, the white guys, they out here, that's with their guns. When I went to go get the bullets for my guns, that's who was in the store. You know what I'm saying? Nobody looked like me in that store. So other things are like Jarvis was saying, you know, there probably will be some bloodshed, but there will probably also be, you have to get a lawyer. So for every action, there is a reaction. So if you go out there on some rah-rah and if you go to jail, be prepared for those consequences. Be prepared to maybe lose your job. Be prepared to spend all your money. Be prepared to not be able to come home for a few days. Those things really do happen. Also, be prepared to potentially be injured. And you could potentially be injured for a while, for, you know, it could be like a long-term thing. This is not to deter you. This is just to show you this is what the revolution, this is what they did in the past, and this is what is still needed to be done. And they were able to fight for us with way less resources. Our ancestors and our elders were able to fight for us in the other times that there were uprisings with way less resources. But one thing is, don't burn your own shit up, period. Do not burn your own shit. That's the dumbest thing, that even when I was younger and I saw people burning up their own stuff, it never made sense to me. If you got to burn, you do what you want to do. I'm not judging how you do it. I'm just saying, for anybody who's watching and you know, you feeling the rage and whatever, don't burn the Black businesses down. Don't burn the places that you have to go to, because that just doesn't do anything for you. So anybody else want to add before Amee'ra gives us from a social worker, like a therapeutic kind of way to end it, and tips you can do to calm yourself after you have been going out on these protests? Does any Xavier, Skyler, Doronda, anybody else want to add?
I would say just journal, like I think you mentioned that in the thing, the workshop the other day, but I did journal finally today about the whole experience, and it made me feel a lot better just to get through my thoughts. Also just like relaxing after just doing something to kind of take my mind off of it. That first day of watching the news in Atlanta and just seeing all the riots and looting and all that stuff, it was very stressful. And like I had to like just go a whole day without social media just to clear my head. And that's when I felt like strong enough to go out and protest. But it's like I had to get my mind right, because it's very stressful and frustrating and scary to consume yourself with that constantly.
Yeah, you can't do that. You can't, from a health perspective, a mind, body, spirit perspective, you wouldn't just consume bleach because you know it's harmful to you. So think of it as the same kind of poison, and a little bit of poison is still poison. A little drop of bleach is still bleach. So if you peep in your eye to see what those fools are doing, or just peeping your eye open to watch that one last video of a person being murdered and losing their whole spirit and life, that bothers you. So I was telling Amee'ra and Skyler in a class that we're taking together that they're young, and when they have their children, to journal that night. Like, they had just come back from the protest. They came into the class a little bit late because they had been out in them streets. So I was like, tonight, write it down so that when your children are here, you can say, on May 31st, I was in Atlanta and I was a part of the protest and I was there. Because it's really, it's the people's protest. There's no, you know, we don't have to look for the stars or look for the popular people or the regular people who are always on the front lines. It's you being out there that made a difference. You looking in the eyes of the police officers, Amee'ra, when you walk with your little sign, that made a difference. So journal those things, because that will be an archive to pass down to our children, so that you can just be like, I had to take off work that day, but I went. So they will know is you still got to handle your business, but you can still do it if you choose to do it. Okay, Amee'ra, we're going to end with you. We're making great time. Give us a few tips, maybe like 3 tips that we can do to like keep our minds straight after an experience like when you said with the chaos, especially for those who are out there on the streets. What would you say?
Yeah, so I think a big piece, especially with COVID and just everything happening, or anytime you're feeling really heavy and weighed down with things that you're hearing or seeing or experiencing, you should do things that make you feel good. So a lot of times we can be restrictive or don't let ourselves really splurge and enjoy. But right now I would focus on doing things that make you feel good.
Right.
So another thing I would say is make a list of stuff that make you feel good. And I suggest you do that when you're in a good space, because sometimes when you're not really in the best space, it's hard to really brainstorm things that do make you feel good.
Right.
So if you find some time, even if it's just you're sitting outside or you're in a bath or, you know, you just took a nice shower, write down things that make you feel good. That way, when you are struggling, you can look at that list and pick something to do. So some examples could be like how Skyler mentioned, journaling, going for a walk, eating your favorite food, calling a friend. That's another big thing right now, is talking to people that you love and who love and care about you. So, I mean, it's a good time to write letters or to call that person you haven't talked to in a long time, to tell that person you care about them. We haven't talked in a long time because life, but just checking in and getting people to feed you that positivity. And then you guys kind of touched on earlier, but there's no one right answer right now. There's really, in life, there's no one right answer for anything, but it's not that you have to be out protesting to be making a difference. So I think as long as we're supporting each other in the movement and moving forward, any of that's positive. So, you know, Skyler, you mentioned like writing to people in government, right? Or signing petitions, or maybe even just talking to your friends that don't know too much about it, right? Or strangers. I got time. I got all the time right now, especially. So when people say stuff, part of it is thinking about what stuff you're gonna say. So like for me at work, I was like, if they say something ignorant, and I had to go through and I said, if they say this, this is what I'm gonna say. And part of it, me had to write it down a little bit and really just get it out. Because I was, you know, part of that is my self-care, and I want to feel like I said something that really landed on their hearts. That also kept me in the light, where I don't allow people to put me in the place or react the way that I don't hold myself to, right?
Right.
So just find something you can do right now to support the movement and whatever it is that looks like. So just really quickly, again, write down a list of stuff that make you feel good so that you can do those things when things get stressful. Talk to friends, talk to people who love you, reach out to old friends that just can feed love into you. And then find something that you can do right now to make you feel good about supporting the movement, but that really fits you as a person and your personality.
Well, thank you. I think that's the perfect way to end. And the 2 things that I want to piggyback off of what you were saying, Amee'ra, is Black joy is revolution. because the whole point is to incite fear on us and to scare us and to make us feel less than and for us to vibrate low. But Black joy is revolution. And I'm learning that taking a nap is a revolution because Black people been working for free for centuries. So if you feel tired, lay your ass down like they tell the baby, take a nap. That's revolution because then you're healing your body when you sleep. Laughing, things are going crazy. You might see people on your feeds of social and they're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, or I'm feeling so stressed out, or they're feeling like guilty because they've been enjoying whatever they're enjoying. Bump that. I am enjoying, it's and both. You enjoy your life and then you fight the power. You have to have a balance. There has to be harmony in that. So don't let anybody talk you into thinking that you ain't part of the revolution because you have been cracking up on whatever specific day, or you want to sit on the couch and watch TV. And then I want you all to be very careful of emotional labor. You ain't gonna get people to understand stuff. Like I saw Doronda talked about, she got somebody to finally get it, and that's nice, but I feel like that was a lot of emotional labor on your part. So what I want you all to just recognize is that freaking the World Wide Web is the whole world in somebody's phone, and they know what it is, just like you know what it is. So don't let them pull you into babysitting their ass on trying to understand what to do. You know how to talk to your grandmama, your aunties, your uncles, and all the ones who've been acting crazy and who have it set up this way continually. That's what you tell your white friends to do if they really want to know. They can get on Google like anybody else. So I want you to protect your energy, protect your space, protect your mind, body, and your spirit. That's a holistic, integrative way to still fight the power, but to protect yourself. So I am so proud of you. I am just like all my cousins and my niece and my nephew. I'm just so grateful that you joined me. I'm so grateful that you're fighting for us. I'm so grateful that you are energized, and I am praying the safety over you all. And I'm here if you need any more resources, if you ever need anything. So be safe out there, be well, wear those masks, wash those hands, okay? Be careful, because Corona still, the second wave is coming, y'all. The second wave is coming. October is the natural virus cycle, flu cycle. So it's coming. Be very, very careful. I love you all, and share. Anybody, you guys share this, share the message of I know a lot of our family members are on this live. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. And we'll see you on the next Sanctuary Radio Show, Fight the Power Edition. Peace.
Thanks for having us, Wendy.
Yes.
I love you. Thank you so much.